Boneworks shows its hand about 10 minutes into its campaign. Midway through your introductory tour, a tutorial humorously fashioned as a history of VR interaction, it drops a key bit of advice. Quote, "If you physically imagine you are holding the heavy object, you will have an easier time moving it." Translation: we've done 90% of the heavy lifting, help us out with the last 10. This touch of pantomime is a necessity if you're to enjoy Stress Level Zero's physics-driven VR shooter, a game that wants each of its many interactions to be realistically weighted and considered. It's a crude bit of role-playing. Put your back into lifting thin air when picking up massive virtual boxes. Swing your axe with the intention of cutting down a tree even if there's no weight in your arms. Don't think your hands can phase through anything, but instead treat them as solid matter, just like every crate, ladder and door. Put your body and mind into this reality and play along. The more holistically you adopt this line of thinking, the more you'll enjoy Boneworks. But what is Boneworks other than its notable rule set? Is it just a template, a Blade and Sorcery style tech demo for technology that will be better served in future releases? Or is this VR's first Half-Life level epic, the purest distillation yet of virtual shootouts and uncompromising immersion? The reality, as is so often the case, is somewhere in between. Yes, Boneworks does come with a full 67-hour story mode, and quite an enjoyable one at that. Isolated within a deranged virtual metaverse, you fight your way through scores of rogue AI enemies and the holographic soldiers sent in to clean them up. It's as much a puzzle platformer game as it is an FPS, with regular road bumps that ask you to haul, hoist and vault yourself towards a goal. Both its combat and brain teasers are best approached in the spirit of science. Boneworks might be a gun nut of a game, but its combat is thrillingly physical, with reload animations that find deep satisfaction in the pull of a charging handle or push of a magazine. Melee action is hefty, lagging behind your own movements to replicate the exertion you should be spending trying to deliver the crushing impact many VR scraps have been sorely missing. Above all, it's wonderfully playful. Grab a leaping robot crab, or a head crab, by its legs and you can victoriously lasso it above your head before crashing it into the side of a wall or executing it point blank range with an SMG. I'm quite rightfully ashamed to admit how much fun I had holding an enemy's head at arm's length and then stabbing them with a broken bottle as they flailed about. Perhaps the highest praise I can bestow upon Boneworks though is that it made me see virtual worlds as just that, worlds. If you have to reach a high point in a level, there's rarely one set way to do it. You could stack a bunch of boxes together and then clamber up them, or snatch the side of a ledge with the end of a crowbar, again Half-Life, and then use that to pull yourself back up. The game encourages you to treat it like an actual reality of its own as often as possible. This can, at times, be exhausting. Handling larger objects like planks can be incredibly finicky, to the point of obscene frustration, and jumping around in VR is a strange sensation that never feels quite right. The trouble is, the game doesn't have much sympathy for these issues. The same is true of the action, where the simplest solution often trumps the coolest. The game's lofty two-handed weapons are, in reality, often less effective than pistols and knives that can be accessed and utilised in half the time. Add to that some inevitable technical flaws, though not nearly as many as you might fear, and you have something that's best enjoyed in intense bursts rather than binged upon. And yet, going back to more static worlds isn't going to be easy post-Boneworks. Stress Level Zero just started barking up a very particular tree, one that, for perhaps the first time in VR, pulled my brain out of game mode and brought more of myself into the headset. The further I delved into Boneworks' campaign, the more I believed I could pull off virtually anything I wanted given the manpower and resources. But it's also a reminder that at the heart of Valve's most beloved campaigns is, well, Valve, a seemingly god-given talent to tame whatever unruly new concepts it's dreamt up, from portals and gravity guns into almost faultless game design. And that's what this doesn't have, a channeling of all those possibilities into one seamless flowing package of high production scenarios and diverse design. The game's pacing and environmental design are largely one note and rarely as inspired as the laws that make it work. Granted, these are impossible expectations to stack Boneworks against, and it often does do an admirable job of serving them. Its campaign occasionally flirts with that brilliance before turning to more trite scenarios like, of all things, a trek through some sewers or some more mundane puzzles. I didn't want moving simulator, I proudly quipped to myself at one point as I wrestled to stack one box on top of another, just to watch it fall off once more. Theatre can only get you so far. At some points I longed for a touch of automated acceptance to finish the job when a jump was just a little far from reach or a plank didn't quite bridge a gap. For all its intricacies, the game's hordes of brainless AI enemies forever shuffling towards you at a leisurely pace are simply there to be toyed with and never to actually threaten. In fact, I think I only died twice throughout the game's entire campaign. You can capture the effortless artistry of John Wick and still retain the challenge, just look at Super Hot or Pistol Whip. It's hard to escape the suspicion that, when you unlock the game's wave-based survival mode after the credits, Boneworks was conceived as a combat showcase first and a story-driven epic second. It's almost as if it's the Nubarkula drop to Valve's Portal. That need not be such a damning statement though. Boneworks never quite sweeps you away on the same kind of rollercoaster ride its biggest influences charted, but you'd be hard-pressed not to get carried away on its own journey, one of interactive wizardry, devilishly gratifying combat and stunning physical authenticity, even if it occasionally works against you. Ultimately, it might not be the VR shooter to turn the heads of the masses, but if you want to see where that future lies, you can't miss Boneworks.